OT, this is your girl Nancy. I am back with another OT video. I am going to be talking about some study tips. I've had so many questions, especially from new OT students and from students in general who want some study tips on how to pass their classes and how to do great and wonderful things in school. So if you're interested in this type of video, then keep on watching. Okay, so the number one and the most important tip is you have to use different cues when you are studying. What do I mean by different cues? Visual cues, auditory cues, kinesthetic cues, okay? All that is really, really important. So while I was in grad school, what I did, and I think even before grad school I used to do this, is that when I'm studying, if I can, I will watch some videos about the topic that I'm studying. If there's videos out there, I'll do some reading. That's all visual, okay? And when you're listening to a video, that's also auditory. If you're listening to like a CD of a book, like that type of thing. Or if you can, record your professor, okay? And then just play back that record while you're, commuting to work or to school. That will give you some auditory cue as well. Another thing with the kinesthetic cue is that I love doing this so much. I used to write things down, so I would like quiz myself. So I had like a quiz book, like one of those like dollar books that you can get from the dollar store, and I literally ask myself questions like, okay, what is the meaning of X, Y, and Z? And I would test myself. What is this? What is that? And I'll basically write it down in the book, scribble all over it. And then when I'm done, like I ask myself a few questions, and then when I'm done, I will go back and check the book or check my notes to make sure those answers were correct. Now the reason why this is so important is because when you start to understand how the brain works, you start to do things differently, and a lot of things start making sense. This is a very the most important tip that you will ever hear from anywhere. When you do this, your brain has a tendency to soak up all the information because you're using different sources, if that makes sense. It's how I do auditory for an hour, do some writing for an hour, do some visual for mix it up together. Don't just do auditory, don't just do visual, don't just write down. Because what happens is that your brain absorb all that information in the different cues. So when this happens to me, I feel like this worked for me too, because when I'm taking a test and sometimes I'm trying to visualize the book, my brain remembers the memory through my eyes, if it makes sense. I'm trying to explain this as much as I can to make it as simple as possible. My brain kind of remember all the visual things that I saw with my eyes. And then sometimes I write things down when I'm taking a test, and I have the kinesthetic memory, and I start writing. It's almost like I'm a robot, and it all just start coming, and I'm writing, and I'm writing, and I'm writing, and I'm writing, and I'm writing. Sometimes when I get the test, I'll flip over the paper over, and I just start writing things down. And for some reason, my hands also form memory. It's weird. And so my hand kind of remember the information, and I'm just writing, I'm just writing, I'm just writing. And then also my auditory, sometimes just by saying things out loud, read it to myself, okay, what is for some reason it connects to something in my brain, and I remember, it triggers something, and I remember it that way. So that's why it's important to use different cues. I don't know if I explained it well, if you guys got it, but it makes sense to me. I know what I'm saying, but I don't know if I explained it well for you guys to understand. But the whole point is that use different cues. Do some auditory, do some visuals, do some writing, and so when you're writing the test, that it will be really beneficial for you. You can also use olfactory as far as smelling stuff. And the reason why I say this is also important is I actually want to do a lot of research on aromatherapy versus comparing aromatherapy to studying, and how the correlation, what correlation it has, because I really think there's a correlation there. So for example, if when you were studying, you were smelling peppermint. I love peppermint, so I'm going to use that. And that's what I used when I was, that's what I used when I was taking the MBCOT exam. I sprayed some peppermint all over my shirt and all over my neck and all of that stuff. And when I got to a point where I was very anxious and I was getting tired, I would literally sniff. I was like sniffing my shirt and taking a deep breath. And for some reason, it really calms down your senses. It calms down your brain. It calms you down. And it also refocuses you. So try that if you haven't tried that yet. Get some Percament, okay? And spray it on you while you're studying, and then spray it while you're about to take a test, and do some sniffing while you're taking the test. It doesn't matter if people look at you weird or your professor look at you weird, as long as you're passing the test, okay? Do what works, and I'm telling you that works. So try that out and let me know what you guys think. But I definitely did that when I was taking the NBCOT exam, and I thought that it worked pretty well. Number 3 on my study tips is that always study to understand, okay? If you are not able to explain what it is that you're studying in simple terms, in layman's terms, for someone who don't know anything about what you're studying, then you don't really understand what you're studying, if that makes sense. So if someone asks me what is OT, and I'm not able to explain it in very simple terms for them to understand without using like jargons and using big words and stuff, that's going to make them be like, oh, what you saying? Then I really don't understand what OT is, and I really don't understand what I'm studying. So when you're studying, for you to really know that, okay, you know what, I really understand this, I really got this, you should be able to explain it in very simple terms. You should be able to explain it to somebody else and have that person understand what you're saying, if that makes sense. And that's a very critical thing to also do. Teaching yourself, I love to teach myself things because that's just how I learn. I like to teach myself, and I did that all through college and also grad school. I teach myself. It just works for me. So sometimes what I do is that, and that comes to my next tip, is form discussion groups. I don't like to say form study groups because I personally do not like study groups. Personally, I just don't think they work. I had to study on my own. That's just how I study. Everybody's different. That for me, study groups does not work for me, but I do like discussion groups. So study groups, discussion groups, okay? And the reason why I call it discussion groups is that when I go to a study group, I don't want to go there and sit there to study because I can't study that way. I have to be by myself when I study. I really go there because I want to ask questions about things that I didn't understand. I want to see people's different perspective on different things that we are studying, because everybody has a different brain and everybody sees things and understand things differently. So having a group of people that you can really go over things that you may have some difficulty understanding is very, very important. Also, that gives you the chance and opportunity to kind of teach people things. And when you teach people things, you tend to remember things, if that makes sense. So I will be like, okay, let me tell you what this means, or what this concept means, or whatever this means. And for me, teaching that next person, or also I love it when people ask me questions like, Nancy, what is this, what is that? Because for me, telling them and teaching them what it was, it made me understand it even better, if that makes sense. So form discussion groups, do some teaching, like teaching each other, take turns in being a teacher-student type of thing. Have some discussions on the things that are more complicated and more difficult to understand, and that really is important. It really does help. My other tip is that make sure that you go to labs, and that goes with the visual thing. When you see things, reading about something and seeing it is two totally different things. So you can read about functional transfers all you want, but watching a YouTube video on transfers can really stimulate your brain and for you to have an even much understanding of it. Reading about carpal tunnel, yes, you can read about it. Seeing what a carpal tunnel looks like and seeing the anatomy behind carpal tunnel and all of that even gives you even more visual and even greater understanding of what carpal tunnel is. So just reading a book really doesn't give you a really in-depth understanding of anything, I think. Okay, so just make sure that you use different things. Watch YouTube videos. Take advantage of people who have literally put out so many important YouTube videos on YouTube for free for you to watch. Okay, and I will make a separate video about the 5 YouTube channels that you must subscribe to if you are in OT school or if you are an OT clinician, a therapist, anything. okay? Because these candles literally break things down so much for you to really understand it. Visuals are so important. So important. So make sure you go to lab. Do not skip lab. For me, when I was in OT school, I loved labs. Like, that was like one of my favorite classes. Because like I said, I'm not a lecture type of person, because I don't learn the best listening to someone just yappity at me all day long. I just don't learn best at that. I have to literally go home and relearn everything. And but it's better for me if I do my own learning and then go to class, because then it makes even better sense when the professor's teaching. But if I don't do any kind of reading on my own and I go to class, I'm like lost most of the time. So I just love to, you know, study on my own. My last and final tip is that do not procrastinate. Okay, don't do it. I'm not the type of person that like to procrastinate. I like to get things done ahead of time, because I know how I am. You know what I mean? Like, I know that I cannot, like, I hate dealing with stress. When I'm stressed, everything goes like crazy. So for me to not go into that crazy mode, I have to take my time, plan things out. I have to schedule things. I have to do things ahead of time, because when I have to do things like everything at once, I go crazy. I literally go crazy. Like, I will go crazy. So I have to make sure, if I have a test and I know I have a test coming up in 3 weeks, I'm starting studying now, 3 weeks ahead of time. And not really studying. What I normally did was that if I knew that I had a test coming up, I would literally start refreshing on the material. Because you have to understand, when I was in OT school, it wasn't like you had a test, like one test a week. Sometimes I had like 2 tests in a day. So for me to be able to study for like 2-3 classes in a week and have like those 3 exams in a week, I have to study ahead of time. You just have to do it, because you're going to drive yourself crazy if you try to do an all-nighter and study the night before. Don't do it. It doesn't work for me. Some people say it works for them, but I honestly don't see how you're going to understand anything in depth if you're just studying it overnight. I just don't get it. But if it works for you, hey, kudos to you. But for me, I think that you should study ahead of time, so that you can use different resources, so that you have time to go to discussion groups. So because that way you know what you don't understand, you know what you need to ask question about when you do go to class, you know all of that. So study little by little ahead of time, instead of studying a whole bunch of chapters in like a couple days. Just do a little by little. And then another tip that is that the night before your test, go to sleep super early. So go to sleep at like 7, 8, something like that, right? And then wake up at like 4 or 5 and use that time to review everything that you've been studying. So like an hour, 2 hours, just review, depending on how many chapters you have, just to review, even if you got up at 3, just to review everything. The reason why studying at this time of the night is so important and it works so well is that you have rested. Okay, you've had some sleep, your brain is well rested, you are more alert, you can literally absorb the information a lot more. It's really important that you get a really good sleep before you start studying. So if you can't take a nap, then you should take a nap. Okay, so after work, after whatever, if you can't take a nap, go to sleep. Like, go to sleep. And then once you get up, then you can study. So if you can't take a nap, let's say you got home 6, take a nap, 7 to 8, get up, study till like 1, 2, go to sleep. That's fine. Or if you can't take a nap, then go to sleep. Like, go to sleep. Like, go to bed. Like, eat, go to bed, and then get up like 3, 4 in the morning and do your studying then. Not only is your brain alert, but 2, you don't have any distractions. Okay, your roommate that always make noise at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, he or she is probably sleeping at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Okay, nobody is going to be driving that crazy at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Your phone is probably not busting because your boyfriend, girlfriend is probably also sleeping. Okay, there's not a lot going on at 3 o'clock, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And so that's why it's so important to use that opportunity to study. It's so quiet at that time. You won't believe it. You would not believe it. So if you have not tried that yet, give that a try and let me know how it works. And yeah, I really think these study tips are like groundbreaking. I think everybody should watch this video. Okay, so make sure that you share this video for somebody who needs these tips. And make sure, as always, to like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure that you follow me on Instagram. And the reason why I say that is because I want to be more interactive on Instagram. I want to do more Q&As on Instagram, more fun on Instagram. So make sure that you follow me on Instagram. I'm going to leave the handles right down here. And also, yeah, I want us to be friends. Why not? Let's be friends off YouTube. And yeah, make sure that you guys DM me, send me all the DMs of questions, send me emails, all of that stuff. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching my channel, and I'll see you later.